Third and fourth grade, welcome back. We're going to start off with our sniglet, grust, the gunk that accumulates at the bottom of a car cup holder. Yuck. Grust just sounds gross and yucky and crusty and ugh, doesn't it? And for my kids and my nieces, I will have you know that I have deep cleaned our car recently. I have cleaned out all of the car cup holders, and I believe the stinky smell might finally be gone from our car. So I thought you would be thrilled to know that. And then our Shakespeare quotation. The Shakespeare quotation is "Not slept one wink," from the play Cymbeline by Shakespeare. This is a great one because this is an example of, sleeping one wink. Think about it. That doesn't even make sense. You can't sleep for one wink. You close your eyes and open them again, and you didn't sleep. But this phrase was very clever that Shakespeare came up with, meaning I didn't even get to close my eyes and feel any rest last night. It's a pretty funny image to think about. But now it's become a cliche, or I guess we would call it an idiom. He has not slept one wink. I did not sleep a wink last night. Did you? So that one is credited to Shakespeare again. Instead of a Proverbs, I chose Psalm 141:3. It says, "Set a guard, O Lord, over my mouth. Keep watch over the door of my lips." I love this verse because most of the Proverbs we've talked about have been warnings, telling us how important words are, how powerful they are, how dangerous they can be, or how encouraging they can be. But this one is a prayer. It's a prayer to God saying, "Lord, please help me with my words. Help me with what I say." And it's a picture of a guard standing in front of a door. And that's the prayer. It's like, "Lord, be like that guard in front of my mouth. Help nothing to come out of my mouth that shouldn't. No words, no wrong tone. Help me." And so we can pray that too, just like the psalmist. We can ask God to help us with our words. I need a lot of help with my words. Now we're going to jump into our lesson. So we're going to start talking about how to write a news article. So news articles are written about things that are going on right now. In fact, if you look at the word news, it has the idea in it of something that is new. See that word? New. And that's why we call it news, because it's not written about the past. If I pick up the newspaper in the morning, it will be written about things that happened this weekend, yesterday, today, or things that were just found out recently. They're not going to be written about the past or about history. They're not going to, unless someone finds a new article or a new discovery about the past. A lot of times, news tells us things about the weather or about politics. Those are the people who are in government, like presidents and governors and senators. It might tell us about famous people and what's going on with them. It might tell us about how our money is doing in our country. Anything that is current, that means right now, and it impacts us in a big way or a small way. So how do you write a news article? Well, first, also, I want to say that when you have written your fable and you wrote your myth, there was a certain form we followed, a couple of rules that anyone who picked it up would say, "Oh, this is a myth," or "Oh, this is a fable." So what makes a news article a news article? Well, there are certain things that you have to have for it to be a news article. These are rules that everyone who writes news tries to follow. The first one is they always gather the facts of the story. And when we say story, it doesn't mean that it's something that's pretend. It has to be something that is real. Something real, not made up. Then you want to come up with a catchy but informative headline. Okay, catchy means something that when someone reads it right away, they know what you're talking about. Informative means it has to have enough information that they know whether they want to read the rest of it or not. There's an easy way to do this. We'll talk about that in a second. Thirdly, we want to do a summary of events in paragraph form. That means in a paragraph, we just explain what happened as it would have happened. It's really a lot like retelling the story. So, if I am explaining, for instance, about the tree that crashed on my neighbor's house during Hurricane Helene, I would just tell the story as it happened in order. And then you want to try to include interview quotations. An interview is when the person writing the article talks to someone who saw what happened or who had it happen to them and ask them questions, and then they use their words in the paragraph. That's what a quotation is, using someone else's words. So how do we get the facts of the story? We're going to take my story about my neighbor and the tree crashing on their house, and we're going to pretend we're writing a news article. So follow along, and then you can do this on your own with your story. So how do you get the facts of the story? Well, first of all, you use these 6 questions. And if you've been taking grammar for any amount of time, then you've learned that there are 4 kinds of sentences. And one of them is the interrogative sentence, right? I'm just going to do this for review for keeping your grammar connected to our writing class. So there's interrogative sentences, and that just is a fancy way of saying a question. And so all of these are questions that help you get to the facts of the story. The facts of the story are just the details that tell us the story, but they're not written out in a paragraph. They're not telling the story, they're just listing off the facts. So we're going to find the answers to each of these questions. So I'm writing an article about my neighbor and the horrible thing that happened during Hurricane Helene. So who is it? I guess I'm going to change the name just since this is going online. I'm going to call them the Halls, or the Hall family. Okay, so that's the who. And then the what would be, the basic thing is tree crushed their house, right? Where? Rock Hill. When? During Hurricane Helene. Why? Because of a storm. And how? A large tree fell. Okay? All right, now I have the basic facts. I'm going to add the date here because you would want the date. It was 9/27 and it was at 6 a.m. Okay, so those are the facts. Now, let's go back to our list and decide what we need to do next. So we've gathered the facts of the story. Check. Then we want to come up with a catchy but informative headline. Now, my favorite way to do this is just to summarize in a sentence and then drop all of the unnecessary words. So here's how I would write this. I would say, family home. A family's home was crushed by a tree during Hurricane Helene. Okay, that's just a summary, right? Now, for a headline, here's how I would do it. I would capitalize all the important words, like we do with title, the rules that we use, same rules we use for titles of anything, because this is a headline, is a title for our article, and I would drop any unnecessary word I can, but still have a headline. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to change my color here. I'm going to drop A, I'm going to drop apostrophe S. I'm going to drop was. I'm even going to drop by a tree. And then I'm going to capitalize during. And home. Family is already capitalized. Oh, that wasn't supposed to be capitalized. It's supposed to be lowercase, but now it's capitalized. Crushed during Hurricane Helene. So now my new headline reads like this. Family home crushed during Hurricane Helene. How'd you like that headline? Now, if you're not used to reading headlines, that might sound really funny to you. But that is, the reason we do that is because newspapers, when they used to print them out every day on paper, they needed to save room and ink. And so they would try to take the title and shorten it as much as they could without losing the important information. So the neat thing about doing it that way is your title sentence is almost already done. So then I would make my very first sentence of my paragraph just like this, except I'd put all the things back in. I might even add more. Here's my first sentence. So this is my title now. Here's my first sentence. Actually, I should just type it up, shouldn't I? That'll be faster. Turn off my pen. Let's double tap. Come on, let me do it. Turn off my pen. I'll just do it right here. Sorry about that. Okay, I would say a family's home was crushed by a tree during Hurricane Helene. That's my topic sentence. So how do you write the rest of your essay? Well, or article. You want to include the facts in the first sentence or two, and this is called the lead. Okay? The lead, it's spelled this way so that people don't confuse it with the other lead, like this. Okay? So we want to include the lead, which means I include all of these details at the very beginning. So I'm going to go back to it's just not letting me do it today. Back to my sentence. Okay. There we go. Now I can do it. Okay. A family's home was crushed by a tree during Hurricane Helene, and I'm going to add a couple details. On September 27th, 2024, at approximately 6 a.m. That's my first sentence. Oh, I'm going to keep going. I'm going to add a large tree. And then I'll go on to tell the story from beginning to end. So my first sentence or two should have all of this information, as much as I can get in there. And then I tell the story. So, because it probably won't let me do it again, keep getting these. Let's just trash these ones, huh? Won't let me. All right, so I'm going to just keep going, and we're going to pretend that that is right here. Okay? And I say, throughout the night and early morning of the 27th, the winds blew strongly, and the Hall family slept soundly in their beds on the second floor of their newly renovated home. Suddenly, around 6 a.m., I'll move that in a second. Around 6 a.m., the neighbor's tree fell onto the roof of their house, crushing the parents in their bed. Thankfully, the two young twin 4-year-old girls crawled out of the hole created by the tree and down the trunk to safety. Their sister was able to go down the stairs and out the back door. After the mom wiggled free. She called 911. It took first responders 3 hours to free the father from underneath the huge tree trunk. After a visit in the ER and a health report, I'll say a clean health report, not even a broken bone, the father was released from the hospital to go home. Now, the family is working to rebuild their house and return home, hopefully in the new year. All right, so I'm going to move this so you can see it. I have these other ones in here, these other texts. So it's going to be, I want you to be able to look at it. Okay, so this would be my opening sentence, my lead, and then this is my short article where I tell the story. And so now you can see firsthand how to write a news article. All right, so for your homework, what I'd like for you to do is discuss with your parents, first of all, if you want to do a Christmas letter with several articles for this Christmas, or whether you are going to do just a simple Christmas summary, because from now until the end of the year, all of the things we're working on could be included in a Christmas letter, a kind of a newspaper style Christmas letter, if that's what your parents want to do, because you would definitely need their help. Or if they just want you to do a Christmas summary or something else, that's a discussion for your parents. I want you to ask them that now, because if you're going to do a Newsy Christmas article, that will help you decide what your article is on. So choose something, secondly, that is a real event from this past year that happened to you or somebody you know. So talk to your parents, choose a real event from this past year, and then lastly, write your article, just like I wrote this article over here. Now, I just want to point out to the parents that just as we established at the beginning of the semester for each of these assignments, look for 10 or less things to correct when you're editing them, and only hold them responsible for things they have learned. And at this age, you're probably looking at capitalization and punctuation and spelling as the major things that you're going to mark. Don't mark everything you see, just mark 10 or less. And they get credit for accomplishing all 4 of these things over here. So if they write an article that have facts of the story, have a catchy and informative headline, have a summary of events, and include interview quotations, if they do all of that, they get 100%. So I would give them 1 point for each thing they accomplish. So if they only do 3, that's 3 out of 4, etc. You can, of course, add grades, but I like to grade it based on completion, not on perfection. So if they do the assignment, they get 100%. And then, of course, you mark it up as usual, and then they need to return it to you with those corrections. So I hope you have a great week. I hope you enjoy working on this assignment. It's a lot of fun.